Look down. Across this chasm, engineers will make a leap of faith to build the longest concrete arched bridge in the Western Hemisphere out into thin air over the Colorado River.
Everything about it has to be done from 900 feet above the river. It gives you goosebumps.
Probably will end up being a chance of a lifetime for me. The story I tell my grandchildren about.
American Southwest, engineers are going to a lot of trouble to straighten out a kinky road. A road that takes your car out over this. The iconic Hoover Dam. It's not your average road job, because it culminates in one of America's most ambitious construction projects in decades. A span nearly 600 meters long across the Colorado River. The Hoover Dam Bridge. A bridge many said couldn't be built.
I can tell you, when I took this job on, I had many trusted advisors tell me, that job will never happen. Why would you sign on to something that's a pipe dream? So for us, it's a sense of making what was considered impossible possible.
Not only is Dave Zanatel committed to proving the critics wrong, he's committed to building the bridge on budget and building it to last. A 5-year quest to bridge one of America's most forbidding canyons. And the clock is ticking fast. The entire project will involve more than 300 engineers, more than 1,200 workers, and one central character. Black Canyon. An unforgiving gorge, carved over eons by floods, volcanism, and a relentless climate.
Everything about this job's tough. It's tough physically, it's a big chore technically, so why not add extreme temperatures to the equation?
The bridge over the canyon will form the heart of the Hoover Dam bypass. A $250 million roadway to relieve one of the worst bottlenecks in the American Southwest. When Hoover Dam was built, engineers killed 2 birds with 1 stone by laying a road right on top. What was once a lonely interstate highway has become the main trade route between Mexico and Canada. US 93 also connects Phoenix with Las Vegas, 2 metropolises that were mere villages when the dam was built. Yet the road atop the dam is still just a 2-lane highway. Near the dam, the road switchbacks through a treacherous canyon, cutting the safe driving speed to less than 24 kilometers per hour. In the past 15 years, traffic crossing the dam has doubled, with 5-mile backups each way. The worst-case scenario, an accident that damages the dam itself, jeopardizing the water supply to more than 2 million acres of crops and millions of homes. To divert traffic off the bridge, engineers will build a bypass 460 meters downstream, with 4 lanes to carry twice as much traffic, and the longest concrete arched bridge in the United States. This bold addition actually begins with subtraction. Mammoth power lines block the path of the bypass. Together, the lines carry 460 kilovolts of electricity, supplying power to more than 1 million people. Hoover Dam, after all, was built to electrify the American Southwest. Dave's challenge is moving the lines without triggering a blackout.
That entailed reconfiguring transmission lines and configuration changes all the way down into the powerhouse of the Hoover Dam.
To reroute the power, workers have to rebuild 4 kilometers of transmission lines and extend another line. After nearly 4 months, the new towers come online, without a single volt lost in the process. Now, roadwork can begin, starting with turning that giant kink from this into this. Dave's team has to build nearly 4 kilometers of highway on the Nevada side, and nearly 3 kilometers on the Arizona side. Crews blast through acres of rock to build the 7 kilometers of road, and erect 7 bridges and overpasses, all just to bring the new highway to the river's edge. For some workers, joining this project is like moving from the kiddie pool to the high dive.
My biggest challenge has been the learning curve. As you come from a normal highway job, with normal expectations, and you think you understand how things are run, but when you come into here, it was like jumping right into the fire.
The road work alone would polish an engineer's resume. But ahead lies the job of a lifetime.
Everybody was full steam ahead just with one goal in mind, and that was to get this bridge done.
Through Black Canyon runs the Colorado River, one of America's mightiest streams. More than 2,000 kilometers long and flowing through 5 of the 50 states. The river is the wild artist that sculpted the Grand Canyon. In fact, the color of the rocks gave the river its name. In Spanish, Colorado means red-colored. Over eons, the surging river carved scores of canyons, including the one the bridge must span. Before it was tamed, the Colorado churned with rapids that few men dared to challenge. And it unleashed floods that no man could stop.
The sole reason the dam was built is to control the water.
Black Canyon is so rugged, some said no dam could ever be built here. America's Secretary of Commerce, an engineer named Herbert Hoover, ran the river to see for himself. Construction began in 1931. By then, Herbert Hoover was president, and America was wallowing in the Great Depression. Men who had lost everything came to a place where there was nothing. 4 years later, the impossible dam was a concrete reality. The bypass bridge is so daunting, it'll take longer to build than the dam itself. Wes Polnow is the construction manager for Obayashi Corporation, the bridge's builder.
I started working for Obayashi in a tunnel in Minneapolis, and when they finished the tunnel, they said, well, we'll go find a bridge. Well, they found a bridge all right. One of the toughest ones I've built, and I've built some bridges on the Columbia River and Mississippi River, but this is by far the toughest.
To cross the Colorado River, the Hoover Dam Bypass Bridge has to jump Black Canyon. 275 meters deep and 1/3 of a kilometer wide. So what kind of bridge can make that leap? The choice? A steel and concrete twin rib arch. From top to bottom, the arch rises about 76 meters. From point to point, 323 meters across. The longest concrete arch bridge in the Western Hemisphere.
Hoover Dam itself is an arch that's sitting in the canyon, pressing out sideways. Our bridge is simply an arch, just like Hoover, that now presses this way into the canyon walls.
To support the bridge, the foundations have to be anchored in the very walls of the canyon. Stage 1 of construction, man versus rock.
We had to excavate the roadway to notch into the canyon. And then within the canyon, we had to excavate out the weathered rock and create the foundation opportunities for the rest of the bridge.
They excavate on both sides of the canyon at once.
And so once you excavate in behind those aged and weathered faces, you have incredibly stable and pertinent rock, which is ideal for the construction of this bridge.
The rock may be ideal, but not the site. Working on the edge of this cliff, engineers must erect the towering columns that will support the approaches to the bridge. The tallest, the height of a 30-story building. To compress an already long construction schedule, crews are working simultaneously. As one crew pours the foundations for the bridge, others work at a site 32 kilometers away, casting the columns. The pieces of the columns are cast in 3-meter segments, like giant Lego blocks. To stack them takes giant cranes that can reach out several hundred meters and hoist up to 40 tons. Over the course of months, the columns on both sides of the river slowly rise.
Columns are just under 300 feet tall, just under the length of a football field.
With the foundations and approaches in place, the team braces for the most challenging phase of all. Building an arch into nothing but space. The arch is actually 2 arches, each composed of mammoth segments, with some weighing more than 100 tons. The twin ribs will be linked by 8 huge steel cross braces. The entire arch will be made of high-strength concrete, able to withstand pressure of 700 kilograms per square centimeter. But until the segments meet in the middle, how do you hold up an arch that's dangling in thin air? The solution? Cable stays, just like the ones that support a suspension bridge. To hold the stays themselves, engineers have to erect giant temporary towers at each end of the bridge.
The temporary towers that were constructed to create the cable stay bridge to support the arch as we constructed it are just under 150 foot tall, so you're almost a football field and a half from the ground to the top of those towers to get a sense of scale.
The towers are so big, they have to be erected in segments, like everything else. Each segment is about 4 meters tall and weighs almost 40 tons. It takes 2 months to cast the segments and erect the cable stay towers. Once the arch is complete, they'll have to take it all back down. With the towers up, crews can attach the stabilizing cables from the towers to the first segments of the arch. Adding segments one by one poses the next great hurdle.
Fitting the arch, the actual physical components of building an arch, 2 arches side by side to meet in the middle, is almost an overwhelming challenge for an arch of this span length.
Bonnie Clamorous is a key player on Dave's team, the liaison between the designers and the contractor. She was the first person Dave hired. She's the child of an engineer, and as a girl, she tagged along with her dad on his projects. Now, she has one of her own, and it's a doozy. To cast each segment of the arch, her team will use a method as it is simple. A technique called form traveler construction. The form is a hollow steel box in which workers pour concrete. Once the concrete hardens, they slide the form forward. The first segment supports the back half of the form, and the hollow front half receives the next. Crews on both sides of the canyon are working towards each other, hoping they'll meet in the middle in exact alignment. But with every segment they add, they build in the risk of throwing the arch off course. To stay in alignment, engineers use the cable stay tower to adjust the heading of the arch by mere millimeters. Month by month, the arch grows. So far, engineers have used giant cranes to work over the canyon. But they've hit the limit of their reach.
We're going across a canyon that's about 800 feet deep, and there's no way possible that you can put a crane out here to build this.
It's simple physics. The farther a crane has to reach, the less it can carry. To work over the center of the canyon will take another leap of ingenuity. A high-tech pulley called a highline crane. It's the best way to get men and material out over the river. It's actually 2 highlines running parallel to each other and supported by 4 towers, 2 at each end of the bridge.
It's a real challenge to put this up. It's 330 feet in the air and it's 2,500 feet between towers. And you have the main lines that carry the trolley and the loads are 3-inch in diameter. There's 2 of those. So it takes a lot of planning and coordination.
Spanning the canyon are 2 steel cables that carry the trolleys. But here's the chicken or egg question. How do you get the cables across the canyon before the high line is complete?
When we first did it, we erected the towers, then we took a helicopter and we carried a 1/2-inch cable across the canyon. Then we tied that onto a 7/8 cable, pulled a double 1.1/8 cable across the canyon, and then we pulled the 3-inch track cables across.
Each cable of the Highline crane is strong enough to carry a 50-ton load.
In many ways, the constructing of the bridge is like a tunnel, where you're only able to advance at the front of the job. So the arch was constructed in that same way, with everything being delivered by that Highline crane.
And it's not the fastest crane in the world, and plus here we are with a bridge 1,890 feet long, and we have 2 cranes, and so it's slow getting material to where we want to go.
That slow speed threatens to throw Dave off schedule. He has only 12 months left to meet his deadline. Building one of the longest concrete arches in the world poses enough headaches, but nature adds her own.
Everything about it has to be done from above, 900 feet above the river. So the technical challenges are significant in their own right, then magnified by the extremes of this environment. Frequently, for over 6 months out of the year, temperatures are well above 110 degrees, don't cool down to under 100 at night, 0% humidity, so it's an extremely harsh environment.
Out on the bridge, workers can't escape the sun. And heat isn't nature's only challenge. So is wind. To provide lateral strength against high winds, crews place mammoth steel cross braces between the ribs, about every 6 arch segments. Each giant brace weighs about 18 tons. Yet they can install it within half a day. As always on this project, the key is organization. Throughout construction, high winds are so constant, even the cable stay towers have to be buttressed to keep from swaying. Gusts can reach 145 kilometers per hour. Hurricane force.
At key milestones and junctures, there's always something that a less capable collection of people would say can't be done, impossible, gotta shut it down. When we push through that, for me, that's the reward.
Impossible work plus extreme weather equals hazardous conditions, so safety comes first. Workers stay tethered with safety harnesses, just as if they were mountain climbing. And they might as well be. No one ever forgets how close danger is. They're working in the footsteps of ghosts. The men who built Hoover Dam worked in 3 shifts. Round the clock, 7 days a week. Just days off a year and without pay. The work was hot, hard and hazardous. Dynamiters dangled from ropes high above the river, drilling holes in the rock to set charges. blast clean the walls of the canyon. They worked so frenetically, they finished the dam 2 years ahead of schedule. Safety was sacrificed to meet the deadline, and 112 men perished. The dam itself made the bridge necessary, because the dam succeeded beyond anyone's dreams. Its power made this, Las Vegas. Once a sleepy village in the desert, now a neon oasis. Officially, Vegas became a city a century ago. Unofficially, it was nowhere. Till the dam lit it up and put it on the map. 8 decades later, the dam itself has lost none of its power to impress.
They knew they were building an icon. They knew that from day one. The project, the way they designed it, the tiles along the floor, the marble inlays, they knew that it was to be an American icon. The Hoover Dam is 45 feet thick at the top and 660 feet thick at the bottom. That's 2 football fields thick. The dam actually extends into the canyon walls another 75 feet. That way, in case there's an earthquake, it'll just move and shift with the earth. It won't crack or break. They actually did have an earthquake when they were filling up the lake. It was a 6.4. The weight of the water caused it. There is 3.2 million cubic yards of concrete in the dam. That's enough concrete to build a 2-lane highway from San Francisco to New York City, including the curbs.
The concrete for the dam was produced on site, just like the concrete for the arch. To make all the concrete, they had to build an entire plant from scratch. Mixing their own concrete lets them maintain the high quality and special consistency needed for the arch. In the never-ending quest to keep on schedule, they do the casting at night. During the day, when vision is better, crews continue to erect steel formwork, adjust cable stays, and perform other sensitive work. Because daytime temperatures in the desert are so hot, pouring concrete at night also helps slow the initial hardening. Concrete sets as it cools. The concrete in Hoover Dam is so thick, it's still curing. 8 decades later. When completed, Hoover was the world's biggest dam. 60 stories tall. This mirage in the desert was dubbed the 8th wonder of the world.
And to be able to work with that as a backdrop every day has been humbling to say the least.
The Hoover Dam is America's greatest engineering achievement, but Hoover, because of its shadow, creates the obligation for us to be great. We have to do as well as for our generation as those that preceded us.
After months of sweat, the backbone of the bridge comes together. August the 10th, 2009. A milestone. Crews cap the arch with the last segment, a 2-meter keystone, to lock the arch in place. Now, the arch supports itself. The load rests on the rock-solid walls of the canyon.
And we then build the rest of the bridge on top of it and take away that temporary cable stay bridge.
First, they carefully remove the stays themselves, a process that takes 2 weeks. In all, they remove more than 600,000 meters of wires. Enough to surround Greater London 3 times over, with room to spare. And yes, it all gets recycled. Now to remove the towers. A big job for a big machine. A 500-ton hydraulic crane. If you remember, the segments of the cable stay towers were stacked like giant Legos. So they should come apart as easily as they went up. At least, that's the theory. Workers attach this lifting rig to steel rods anchored in each concrete block. And it works. The process is so regimented, removing one giant block takes only a few hours from start to finish. To hit the target date for opening the bridge, work goes on 20 hours a day, 2 10-hour shifts, 6 days a week. Now begins the next big challenge, erecting the bridge columns on the arch itself. Workers will install 8 pairs of columns. The shortest, about 5 meters tall. The tallest, more than 50 meters. These columns will support the deck for the highway. To balance the load on the arch, crews will work from the middle outward. Like other components of the bridge, the column segments were pre-cast on a site nearby. Casting them in place would have added half a year to the construction schedule. Segments are connected with high-strength steel rods. Each segment is the size of a small office, about 5 meters wide, 3 meters tall, and 2.5 meters deep, and weighing about 32 tons. Crews have to align all these monoliths within a centimeter. Any deviation and the components atop the columns may not fit. While some crews erect the columns, others install the final components for the cross braces. These panels serve 2 functions. One practical, to protect the cross braces from the elements, and one aesthetic, to match the look of the bridge. In all, 12 panels will envelop each cross brace. For this phase of construction, workers have another way to move around the arch, besides the highline crane. And it puts any health club stair climber to shame. The stairs go up the entire length of the arch. But it's not the only way to reach the top. This tunnel runs through the arch. Jeff St. John is a project manager for the firm building the bridge, and one of the few people allowed inside.
This is the very center of the arch right here. This 8 foot or so closure, the last piece of the concrete to go in.
This tunnel reveals the secret to the success of the arch. The concrete is high quality and high strength, a requirement for building an arch this size. Yet, the hollow box construction reduces the weight of the concrete, making the arch practical to build. The tunnel also gives access to a key structure on the arch.
That hatch leads into where the cross bracing is between the 2 arch ribs.
You see we've got it locked off right now. We have finished that. It's been cleaned, all the paint's been finalized, and we're trying to maintain limited access in there so we minimize damage.
Without the tunnel, maintenance crews couldn't reach the cross braces for regular inspections, a vital part of maintaining the bridge. Work continues on the bridge columns. It takes about 2 hours to place one column segment. Once crews have set all the segments for a pair of columns, they join them with a pier cap, the lateral beam at the top. The next ordeal, installing girders to span the columns. 4 girders per span, 64 girders in all to support the road deck.
The precast tub girders are 120 feet long from span to span and weigh just under 50 tons each.
The girders are such key components. Each will be triple checked for quality control. Once at the factory in Oregon, once after arriving to ensure no damage occurred en route, and a final check after it's installed. The process of lifting a single girder reveals the key to building the entire bridge. Getting each step down to a science. Holes in the girder allow the crew to install giant bolts to attach the lifting cable. Final adjustments, and they're ready to hoist. As usual, the wind puts up a fight. This is one of the most delicate operations on the bridge. They can't afford to let it sway. One false move, and the girder could damage the bridge. The cost of repairs would hit not only their budget, but their schedule. But controlling the girder is like guiding a 50-ton kite. Unlike construction on most bridges, the girders fit between the pier caps rather than resting atop them. An aesthetic move to reduce the bridge's profile.
This is a unique connection, and as far as we're aware, it's the only one in the United States done like this.
It takes only minutes to move a girder out onto the deck, but an hour to carefully maneuver it into position.
The girder needs to be where it needs to be, otherwise the decking won't fit correctly. So we gotta hope that we did the concrete close enough that we can get the girder where it needs to be. And so far, we've had a couple of very minor issues, but in general, no problem.
The gap between the girder and the side of the pier is filled with grout. Then the girder is connected to the side of the pier cap with large diameter steel bars, 16 bars per connection. Then those bars are stressed to about 13,000 kilograms of pressure to form a permanent connection.
It is a very tight margin for error. One of the things that we have to do is, after the girders are fabricated, we make a match template that fits every hole. That template was then used when we were installing the ductwork in the concrete before we poured the concrete of the pier cap. And so that ensures that we should have a pretty good fit.
To install one set of girders takes only a day, weather permitting. But to lock them in place takes nearly a week. And Dave is running out of weeks.
We'll bring in the girders, cast the deck, take a deep breath, and go do the next one.
As each span is completed, crews move in to lay the road deck. Over the girders they install a mold for concrete. Then they'll pour the road itself, months from the deadline, cement finishers move in to repair minor defects on the arch and on the columns. For this work, climbing is the only way to get around, and you need a head for heights. On the tallest column on the arch, it's like walking up 18 flights of stairs.
I'm not out there carrying 100 pounds of equipment like some of the workers are trudging up and down the arch, and I have give them full credit for what they are doing, because that is truly difficult work.
The workers aren't the only sure-footed climbers here. Hundreds of bighorn sheep live in the hills nearby, so the bridge builders also have to double as conservationists. Crews install fences to protect sheep from traffic and ramps so they can travel under the roadway. Bighorns favor this rugged terrain because predators like cougars and coyotes can't follow them up here. These sheep are truly survivors. 2 centuries ago, maybe several million bighorns thrived in the West. A century later, barely several thousand remained, their numbers ravaged by hunting and disease. Thanks to conservation, they've rebounded. Whenever crews spot a bighorn, they report the sighting to ensure man doesn't disrupt nature. Dave's team will leave its signature above the river, but they tread lightly on the land.
Every worker here is proud of the fact that we had no impact on the sheep.
Dave's team is on nature's side, but time is breathing down their necks. Four months from the deadline to open the bridge, crews race to complete the final stretch of decking. For the entire deck and roadway, they'll pour more than 4,500 cubic meters of concrete, enough to fill 2 Olympic swimming pools. The roadway will be flanked by concrete barriers nearly 1.5 meters high, high enough to deny drivers a view of an engineering icon. But they can view the dam from a scenic overlook, to be completed soon after the bridge opens. With all the heavy lifting over, crews prepare to retire the workhorse of the project, the Highline crane.
It's a dangerous operation. You do it pretty much in reverse of erection.
It takes 2 months to disassemble.
Came down step by step, came down safely, came down in a timely manner, and that makes it great.
After doing heroic work, most of the crane will be sold for scrap. It's June 2010, and to stay on schedule, Dave has to finish the roadwork by August.
We're on the finish line. We have to run about 3 hard plays to cross the goal line. We've been at this for a long time, and we can feel it. We can feel it. This, as you can see, it's a bridge now. We can drive it. We're there. We're there.
By the time Dave completes this one-of-a-kind bridge, sightseers will have 2 sights to see. 2 marvels of engineering standing side by side.
Every day, this team overcame something that individually would be a legacy in its own right. This team did that every day for 5 years.
It's an awesome site. It's one of the most awesome sites you can think of. And to think that a bridge would be located in this environment, in this tough, rocky, high temperature, windy site is pretty amazing.
They've not only built the longest concrete arch bridge in all the Americas, they've done it within budget.
We set an initial budget of $240 million and are now on track and will complete the job within a penny of that original budget.
What do you do next after a job like this? How do you follow this up? It's a little bit saddening, but it's a great satisfaction also. As a bridge engineer, this is a dream project.
I have 2 little kids. One of them's a little girl who's 4 and a little boy who's 2. And in their minds, I built the bridge. I mean, we drive across it, and they're like, there's Daddy's bridge. There it is. And their eyes light up whenever we cross across the dam.
A record-breaking bridge that some said could never be built.
When I took this job on, I had many trusted advisors tell me, that job will never happen. Why would you sign on to something that's a pipe dream? So for us, it's the sense of making what was considered impossible possible. And where that sits in history, the job will do its talking. It'll create its own legacy.
Don't miss a tough new